Meanwhile, many people who watched the president's interview on Sunday night on 60 Minutes were left wondering, since when do compliments count as questions? The reporter, Steve Kroft, admitted that the president keeps coming back to 60 Minutes because the show, quote, won't go out of its way to make him look bad.
It was a common complaint during the election, with the majority of the negative coverage falling on the Republican candidate Mitt Romney. David Freddoso is the author of Spin Masters: How the Media Ignored the Real News and Helped Re-elect Barack Obama. So I guess we get the point, David. What your book is about, is that how you sum it up?
Well, you know, that is really one way of putting it. It's incredible with Kroft in particular, with the footage that they sat on at CBS News for so long after the controversy with Katie Crowley about Benghazi. It's really to see him talk about it, and he specifically mentioned because we edit things well, and that's one reason Obama likes to come back. It's amazing.
And it just looks like CBS has a dog in that race. And then you look at John Dickerson, their political director, last week giving advice that the president should annihilate the Republican Party going forward. It's interesting. In your book, though, you talk about how during the campaign, the media absolutely ignored the biggest story.
Well, you know, many big stories, I think.
Because they weren't helpful to the president.
Exactly. You know, journalists are, my old boss, Bob Novak, used to say that a reporter is someone who would sell his soul for a story. It's just that when the story would make Barack Obama look bad or his presidency look like a failure, there's a sudden total lack of journalistic curiosity, unwillingness to sell one's soul for a story. And really big stories like Benghazi became non-stories. Editorial judgments were made to play these things down, to just set them aside. Or, you know, you had a lot of the coverage of the job market that just didn't rise to the challenge of demonstrating how bad things were for people. We always hear about McJobs when there's a Republican president, for example. With Obama, you have that going on supersized, and instead of covering the fact that part-time work's replacing full-time work, wages have been going down not since the crisis, which wasn't Obama's fault, but since the recovery started, which is his recovery.
Yeah, and instead we got Big Bird and 47% and binders and stuff. Who cares?
And the war on women and an imaginary contraception ban that no one was advocating and nobody ever supported, but by bringing it up, George Stephanopoulos made a story, former Democratic
And the interesting thing is a Pew Center study on the coverage of the candidates between August and October showed just how important the media coverage actually is. So it showed that when there were more positive stories about Mitt Romney, there was actually, during a particular time, before the first debate, that his numbers went up in the polls. So it showed the influence that the media can actually have on the people.
Well, yes, and you know, and that debate performance in particular forced some positive stories about Romney. But what's also interesting is that you look at the period before they were forced to write something nice about him, and because he had earned it, essentially, you found that the coverage was about twice as positive for Obama, the share of positive coverage about Obama, and about 63% more negative about Romney than about Obama.
I read a column you wrote for the New York Post where you quote Tim Grosclose, UCLA professor, who says, without media bias, America would vote about like Texas or Kentucky. It's fascinating stuff. Read all about it. Brand new book just came out, Spin Masters. He's a spin meister himself. On the other side, David Freddoso, we thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's a great book.
Good luck.
Thank you.